So here we are, welcome back to my Keto Kitchen, Judy's Keto Kitchen, also Keto Naturopath Kitchen. Today, I'm really excited to make this for you. It's an ice cream sandwich cake. About a month ago, I did an ice cream cake where I did the cake that we normally have for our birthdays, which is a very dense, flourless chocolate cake. And I put ice cream, a layer of ice cream on top, and that is amazing, and that's what we have for our birthdays. But this is made with a lighter chocolate cake, and it's more of an ice cream sandwich. So we'll start off with making the ice cream, and I have 6 egg yolks. To that, I'm adding, the recipe says 100 grams of xylitol. I'm using about 45 to 50 grams of xylitol because I'm going to add some vanilla better stevia to it. So it's a teaspoon of vanilla, and I'm about ready to use the vanilla that I made, but I'm using up the store-bought first. So a teaspoon of vanilla. And to that we're adding my better stevia French vanilla, which is absolutely amazing. I get this on Wellevate, but I'll also have links to Amazon where you can buy it. I buy it on Wellevate because they have more flavors than you can sometimes find on Amazon. And then 1 can of coconut cream. I like Thai Kitchen coconut cream. You just pour that in. Try to get all the coconut cream. Now I have my high-speed blender. We're going to blend it up for quite a while because 1, you want the xylitol to break up and incorporate, and 2, ice cream is putting air into the mixture. So again, I'm using xylitol because I can't use allulose. The 2 best sweeteners for ice cream are allulose and xylitol. If you have dogs, use allulose. I have severe gastric issues with allulose, so I go with xylitol. Now, I use egg yolks in my ice cream for a couple of reasons. 1, I make so much PSMF bread with egg whites that I have a lot of egg yolks left over, and this is a great way to use the egg yolks. I have several ways of using the egg yolks, but 2, I find it richer. Someone made a comment on one of my ice cream videos that she didn't read the whole entire recipe completely and used whole eggs instead of just egg yolks. I have done that before. It works fine, but I find the egg yolks are even better. So I have a Cuisinart ice cream maker. I've had this for 15, 20 years. Since we're dairy-free, and we have been for years, I wanted to make my own ice cream because back then there were very few dairy-free alternatives, and I could never make anything that I liked. So I didn't use this for years until we went keto, and with this recipe, it's like, oh my goodness, why would you ever buy store-bought? So this is my ice cream maker. So process according to your ice cream maker's instructions. So I just pour this in. So the ice cream is ready, and I churn it until there are no lumps left. I have an 8-inch silicone cake pan. And I'm going to put the ice cream in here. It's hot here in North Carolina, so it looks like it's going to melt a little before I freeze it again, which is fine. Try to make it as even as possible. I'm going to put this ice cream layer in the freezer for a couple of hours, and I will make the cake portion of this while this is in the freezer. So put this in the freezer. I'll be back to make the cake layers. So the ice cream is in the freezer, and while that's in the freezer, I'm making the cake layers, 2 cake layers. And it's more of a sponge cake. So my other ice cream cake was a very dense chocolate cake. This is a lighter cake, and it's absolutely amazing. You start off with, I have 6 egg whites in here, 6 egg yolks in here, and we're going to beat the egg whites to a stiff peak. As you can see, the peak's forming. And if I were to upside down it, well, this is a bowl that it's going to fall out of anyway. So that's stiff peaks. And next what I do is I beat the egg yolks until they're lighter in color. And I used to do the egg yolk part and then wash the beaters and do the egg whites. And somebody posted, well, why don't you just do the egg whites first and then you don't have to worry about washing the beaters? And I'm like, oh, that's brilliant. The egg whites are going to stay stiff for long enough for you to beat the egg yolks. So we beat the egg yolks until they become pale. So now I'm gradually going to add 62 grams of confectioner xylitol. As I mentioned, I can only use xylitol and stevia for sweeteners. So what I do, and another reason why I weigh things, is I weighed out 62 grams of xylitol, put it in this little herb processor, coffee processor, and powdered it. So gradually add this in while beating. Now we're going to add a teaspoon of chocolate extract. This is a chocolate extract I made myself with 2 cups of rum, 2 ounces of cocoa nibs, and 2 cinnamon sticks. I just haven't taken it out of this jar yet, but to that we add 30 grams of cocoa powder and also a teaspoon of gelatin. On here I forgot to add the teaspoon of gelatin. I will change the recipe to add that. But it's 30 grams of cocoa powder. I use Valrhona cocoa powder. It's so dark and rich and really good. I'll have a link to that below. I purchased this on Amazon. And then we beat this until it's light and fluffy and everything's incorporated. Okay, so now we add in the egg whites. But first I'm just going to mix all of this, get all the cocoa from the sides. And we'll add the egg whites 1/3 of a time, 1/3 at a time, and fold it in. Okay, so I have 2 8-inch silicone cake pans, and we're going to divide the batter into the 2 cake pans evenly as possible. And get some bubbles out. I always used to do this when I baked cakes. I learned this in 7th grade. To get air bubbles out. I'm not sure it matters much with this, but it helps to even them out. So we're going to bake this in a 350-degree oven for 15 minutes and until a toothpick comes out clean, and then we'll let them cool completely. So I'll see you in about an hour and we'll assemble the cake. The ice cream layer has been in the freezer for a couple of hours. The chocolate cake layers are cooked and cooled. I made the ganache. I have several videos out there on making ganache, but it was 1 can of coconut milk. I like Thai Kitchen. 1 Ghirardelli 100% chocolate, and which was not enough for this, so I added 1 of the Lindt 100% cocoa. My preference is Ghirardelli. Lindt is about half the weight as the Ghirardelli, and it's the same price, but I actually like Ghirardelli better anyway. You heat up the coconut milk, and the recipe has 8 ounces of coconut milk to 4 ounces of chocolate and and the Ghirardelli is 4 ounces. I just used the whole thing, made the whole thing because, well, it's delicious. This time I added some French vanilla better stevia to it, and we're now ready to assemble the cake. So you take one of the sponge cakes and you're going to put it top side down so that the bottom, and the reason you do that, if you see, the top separates a little from the edge, whereas the bottom is to the edge and the ice cream is to the edge, so you want the bottoms to meet the ice cream. So we're going to put a little of the ganache, just a little bit, just so enough to bind the ice cream to the cake. So just enough to cover it and to help to bind it. So we're going to get the ice cream out of the freezer and just pop this. And then we're going to take the second layer. Again, we want the bottom, so we're going to put a little of the ganache on the bottom. So I'm just going to put it on the table. Spoon a little of the ganache, again, just to cover it. Whoops. There, perfect. And this is a 10-inch cardboard that I got at Walmart. They didn't have an 8-inch. These are 8-inch cakes. Next time I'm going to look for an 8-inch. They'd be perfect, but I'm going to put this in the freezer for 2 hours. Then we'll come back and taste it. And the ganache will cool, but then we can just put it in the microwave to warm it up a bit to put on our cake. So I'll see you back here in about an hour, 1 to 2 hours. I cannot wait to taste this. I am dreaming about this. So this has been in the freezer for, I think, an hour. I couldn't wait any longer. I'm going to try it. The last time I made it, I had it in the freezer for at least 1 day, if not 2 days, before I served it because we were waiting for Carl's sister to visit, and I made it ahead of time, which this is great that if you're having guests, you can make it a day or 2 or a week ahead of time. Keep it in the freezer and it's perfect. Just take it out of the freezer 15 to 20 minutes before you want to serve it if you have it in there for a day or so. This was not in there for that long, just an hour. My ganache is still liquid enough to use it. If you remember in my last ice cream cake video, I put the ganache on the cake and then refroze it, but the ganache, once it's frozen, turns a different color and it gets hard. So I save the ganache to put on each piece as I serve it. Again, if you make the ganache and you don't eat the cake for a day or 2, store the ganache in the refrigerator, and before you serve it, just put it in the microwave for 30 seconds or so until it's the consistency you want. So now, I'll just take a small piece because, you know, I haven't had dinner yet. So yum. Look at that. Look at that. You can see the layers. It is delicious. You can see the cake that I have taken the piece out. Oh my. I'm going to taste it, but before I taste it, I want to tell you to store this. It has to be covered. And an 8-inch cake this size fits perfectly into a gallon Ziploc bag. The 10-inch rounds will not fit. That's why I'll probably look for 8-inch rounds. But you have to take the cake off of this, put it in a Ziploc bag. It won't get all crystally frozen. So that's my tip for you. So now we're going to put some ganache on it. Oh, look at that with the ganache. I cannot wait to taste this. That is so good. There's nothing better than ice cream, cake, and chocolate ganache. I just want to say that this chocolate ganache can also be used over just plain ice cream. If you have vanilla ice cream, even chocolate ice cream, just drizzle some over, heat it up in the microwave. It's like hot fudge sauce. But right now, that is so good. I'm going to eat the whole piece. Till next time.